Hello Sharks, I'm Jonathan Little for PokerNews.com, here today going over a hand from the recent $10,000 buy-in GG Millions that takes place every Sunday on GG Poker. We are down to 4 players, including Niklas Astedt, one of the absolute best players in the world. And at this final table right now, we're playing 80,000, 160,000 blinds. And Chris Rudolph here has a whopping 4 big blinds. It's not where he wants to be. He's going to fold. Folds around to Oasis. I don't know who Oasis is. He has King 6 of Hearts. Tough spot with a very clear medium stack of about, 23, 24 big blinds, because Niklas in the small blind is the chip leader. If Oasis plays this hand, he should expect to face a lot of aggression from Niklas, because the big stack should be applying a lot of aggression to both medium stacks. This is a spot where the 2 medium stacks need to be overly tight. Now, I'm not exactly sure what you should do with the King 6 suited in this scenario. I know what I would do, though. I would just fold. Because if you raise, you're going to get re-raised a lot, probably just all in, and you're going to have to fold. Because notice, if you make it 2 big blinds, Niklas can just rip it all in, because the big blind, D7777, has, only about 25 big blinds, so Niklas can just rip it in with a lot of hands. And if you limp, maybe you get to see the flop, but quite often Niklas is just going to raise and put you in a bad spot. If you do limp and get raised, you're going to be pretty inclined to call with King 6 suited and see a flop, but it's not a great spot to be in at all. So I think in this scenario, given Chris Rudolph is so short, with only 4 big blinds, you just have to be really tight here. From a GTO point of view, I imagine you're going to raise most of the ace-X in this scenario. You're probably supposed to open shove a few hands, like ace-king type hands, ace-queen type hands. Because if you raise and get jammed on, it's actually close with hands like ace-king, because on GG Poker especially, they have a relatively flat payout structure. And as the payout structure is relatively flat, you're highly incentivized to not go broke before the shortest stacks. So with hands like ace-king, you probably just want to rip it all in and win the blinds most of the time. Anyway, King 6 suited, I'd probably fold. If I'm going to play it, I guess I would limp, but it's not a great spot. Oasis does opt to limp. Niklas with ace-10 in the small blind, I have to presume is going to raise. He makes it a solid 4 big blinds. Interesting spot, because ace-10 is actually a pretty good value hand. If you think about the hands, Oasis is going to want to limp. It's probably going to be stuff like suited connected hands, some King X suited, maybe some middle connected cards. And ace-10 actually crushes that range pretty hard. So you don't really care if your opponent calls. So I like this play. I'm trying to think if you should make it even like a touch bigger, but I think 4 big blinds is fine given stacks are very shallow. If you do get jammed on here, I think you can actually fold the ace-10 pretty confidently, because Oasis has to be really cautious because Chris Rudolph has 4 big blinds. Big blind folds back around to Oasis. I guess I'd call. Flop comes 9, 7, 3. Both players have zip and pip. Oasis has backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw. Niklas fires out a 5th pot. Tiny little sprinkle. Oh, this is where you don't want to be with the King 6 suited, am I right? Facing a tiny little sprinkle, I don't really see how you can fold. You may say, why in the world would Niklas bet so small as what is essentially a bluff? Well, in this scenario, as the big stack, you want to just be applying little bits of aggression to your opponent that may result in them being all in at some point in the hand, because Oasis's risk premium is through the roof. I discussed this thoroughly at my training site, pokercoaching.com, in the tournament masterclass, about how when your risk premium is high, meaning you're highly incentivized to not go broke, you have to be really cautious, and in turn, your opponent, the big stack, gets to be really aggressive. And usually they want to do that by getting little bits of fold equity on every betting round. Here, though, facing a small bet, I don't see how you can fold this King 6 suited. You may say, but you lose to basically everything. Yeah. You improve to a king, though, you're happy. You improve to a straight or a flush, you're happy. So buckle up. Here we go. I would not raise here. If you raise and get jammed, which will happen sometimes, you end up having to fold, of course. And from a GTO point of view, I don't think you want to do much raising here in general. And if you are going to raise, it's probably just all in. And you don't want to raise all in with the King 6 suited because you're in terrible shape. Turns a 3 of diamonds. All right. If Niklas bets, obviously Oasis is done. If Niklas checks, should Oasis bluff? What do you think? That is exactly what happens here. Ooh, Niklas checks, and we have the king 6 of hearts on 9-7-3-3. Nothing. Take a second and think about what you do in this scenario in Oasis's shoes with about 1.3x pot behind. Do you check it back, planning to just give up? Do you check it back, planning to potentially bluff the river? Or do we start with a bet? Do we bet small, like 700K, or do we load it all in? Pause the video and write what you would do in the comment section below. Nasty spot, nasty spot. Before I reveal the answer, do me a quick favor. Click the like and subscribe buttons below. It costs you nothing besides a mouse click, and it helps me a lot. I appreciate it. Thank you. I think this is a spot where you're probably supposed to go for a bet. I realize Oasis has basically no 3s in his range, but he definitely has a lot of 9s that would like to get some protection and also some 7s. If you do bet here with a 9 and get jammed on, you got to call it off. If you bet with a 7 and get jammed on, I think you have to call it off, which is kind of gross. The problem is that you can't just check it down with the king high because king high loses a lot, right? This is a scenario where I do think the 9 and 7 lines up very nicely with Oasis's range, because if he is limping a lot of the middle cards, calling a raise obviously has lots of straight draws and pairs here. So I think this is a spot to go for a low equity bluff. I think. What else are you going to do, right? If you somehow play this hand, I don't see how you have any other great options here besides go for the small bet. I know if you go for the small bet and get jammed on with this hand, it's very unfortunate. But what are you going to do? I think it's a spot where you got to bet small on the turn and then jam river. I would be jamming river, by the way. If I bet small on the turn and Niklas calls, I would rip it in on the river. Feels gross. And the thing is you really don't want to be making these plays in spots where your risk premium is very high, because they have to succeed way more than if there was no short stack at the table. Because when you fail, you take 4th place money and lose all potential earnings in this tournament, right? So you really don't want to be bluffing it off all that often in these spots, but I think if there is a spot to do it, this is it. That said, fold pre-flop, move on with your life. All right, let's see what Oasis does. He goes for 800K. That should be the end of this hand, I imagine. Niklas probably should just get out of the way. Oh, he goes all in instead. Did you expect that? I didn't expect that. Wow. Brazen, am I right? Perhaps this is why he's one of the best players in the world. I would have literally never made this play here. Why is he making this play here? Maybe he thinks that Oasis will just have a range that's much too wide. Maybe he thinks he'll bet a hand like a 7 and fold it to a jam. Maybe he thinks he's just betting a whole lot of draws. I don't know. This is a weird spot, right? Because if Oasis should not be bluffing very often, when he does bet, he's going to be very call happy, I would think. I would have naturally thought that. Again, I've never played with Oasis. I don't know what he's doing at all. Maybe he's very bluff happy here. Or maybe he's a player who's going to bet a hand like a 7 and fold it to a shove. I don't know. But in scenarios like this, I always ask, why is the good player doing this thing that I would not have done? Because, look, I'm trying to learn here as well. And, watching these very high roller or very high stakes tournaments featuring the best players in the world is a very good way to go about learning. To be fair, maybe Niklas screwed up. I don't know. This is where it's hard to learn poker because who knows what's actually right in some portion of the time or in various kind of odd scenarios. I do know the big stack should be hyper aggressive in these spots, except I know that Oasis is highly incentivized to not be too out of line here. So if he's highly incentivized to not be too out of line, then why is Niklas jamming? He must think Oasis is just way too far out of line. He must think he has a whole lot of just like random gut shots and stuff he's going to bet small like this, or a bunch of random stone bluffs like Queen X suited, King X suited, Jack X suited, that's going to go for a bluff that will then fold to a shove. That's what I got to presume is happening here. He must think Oasis's range is either way too weak to begin with, or that he is going to be betting and then folding value hands too often. Obviously, Oasis has to fold now, though. And Niklas is going to take a gigantic chip lead. Sweet hand by Niklas. I would not have ended up winning this hand. I probably would have just folded to the turn bet, but that might be a little bit too weak. Maybe the play is to check call a turn bet. I don't know. Final tables are hard. We have to go back and study some more. That's going to be it for today. If you enjoyed this video, let the people at GG Poker know on Twitter, at GG Poker. Click like and subscribe below. Also, Check out my training site, pokercoaching.com. I have lots and lots and lots of training material there. We actually will go deep there, go through the GTO solver, and figure out the definitively right play in this scenario based on what the opponents are likely to do. That's the cool spot about this hand, right? If Oasis is playing good, strong GTO poker, I have to imagine this is not a shove from the ace-10. But if he's not, I already gave you a few very good reasons why this could be a very sweet shove with the ace-10. So always figure out what your opponents do and adjust accordingly. Good luck in your games. Have a great, great day. And I'll talk to you next time. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and as a thank you, I'm going to channel all of my poker knowledge into your brain right now. Oh wait, that didn't work. Sorry, you're gonna have to keep studying. Go ahead and click the subscribe button right here, and I'll see you in the next video.